Hello guys, welcome to another session. So here in this video, we will be taking up a question from interpretive sociology. So I'll give you the question and then we can discuss the way in which you'll be answering this particular question, okay? So here is the question that you have that, elaborate the main tenets of interpretive perspective in sociology. So I hope you know about this perspective. So what the structure, you need to define what this perspective, we talk about the elements of this perspective, and then you need to discuss a criticism, and then you need to conclude, right? So this is what we need to do. See guys, any question from your first three chapters, you need to write in introduction few lines about the emergence of sociology and the subsequent developments, right? So that's how you will be introducing. So sociology emerged in response to challenges posed for modernity in medieval Europe. If it is a 20 marker, if it's a 10 marker, directly get into the question, okay? You don't want to waste time or space over there. And then talk about initial sociologists. They wanted to make it similar to natural science and other things. So initially, positivism was the approach which was followed. But later, it has been understood that when you're focusing on external reality, it's partial understanding of society. So, or it's partial understanding of any reality. So you need to consider the internal aspect also, like meanings, emotions, motives, and other things. So another school of thought has come, like inspired by George Hegel. So then you can talk about Max Weber. So that's how you will be introducing this interactionist approach or interpretive sociology, right? So we are going to discuss more in terms of Weber actually. So if you see positivism and then interpretive approach, in between interactionism also there, Mead. So Weber and Mead will come in between, and then non-positivism. So positivist on one side, non-positivism on other side, Weber, Mead comes in between. So this actually laid the foundation for non-positivism. So positivism in the beginning, which is objective understanding of objective reality. What you study and how you study both are objective empirical reality. But then Weber deviated. Subject matter has been changed. It's an internal aspect. So you're studying subjective reality, but you need to study objectively. So there is an element of positivism. What is that? The way you study, how you study. It is objective study. But there is a deviation in terms of subject matter. Now comes the pure non-positivism in terms of phenomenology, ethnomethodology, and other things, right? There it is subjective understanding of subjective reality. They study the internal aspect and they are not concerned about objectivity and other things. So this, if you can write an introduction, this objective understanding of objective reality and subjective understanding of subjective reality, in between Weber, objective understanding of subjective reality, who considered to have bridged the gap between the positivist and non-positivist and laid the foundation to non-positivism. And then you introduce this interpretive perspective. That's how it is going to be a beautiful, well thought and rounded answer in the introduction. Okay, so that will attract the examiner to read the answer completely. That he will get to know that you know things when he is reading that introduction itself. Okay, so guys, now if you see what the introduction we can give. So you talk about something like what I have discussed, and you can discuss the interpretive perspective in sociology, which seek to understand the subjective meaning of human actions, and they focus on how individuals interpret and give meaning to their social world, right? So it's all about understanding meanings and how individuals interpret and give meanings to the social world. So initiated by Weber, or Weber laid the foundation, and further developed by George Simmel. So you can say interpretive sociology emphasized the need to comprehend social actions from Weber's viewpoint using Verstehen. All these we discussed in Weber in detail. So study social action, we define social action, how to study social action, how you establish cause and effect relation, right? All these we discussed, and how to use the Verstehen approach. That's the interpretive understanding. You can mention about that. And then talk about what's the difference between positivists. So you can say, unlike positivist approach that focus on external observation and focusing on objectivity, scientific method, scientific study, here you focus more on internal aspect and subjective dimensions of human behavior. So this is an objective study of subjective reality, but you try to ensure objectivity by using proper methods and other things according to Weber. So you can say Weber defined sociology as a science which attempt at interpretive understanding of social action in order thereby to arrive at an explanation of cause and effect. So write this introduction, write this definition if you get this question on interpret, because directly you are talking about interpretive understanding. So what is sociology? Sociology is a science which attempt at interpretive understanding of social action. And what they do, thereby arrive at the explanation of cause and effect. So causal explanation of cause and effect, or explanation of cause and effect, or establish the relation between the cause and effect. So that's what all about sociology. That's about interpretive understanding. So you are introducing. So in fact, this approach, you can say, towards the end, laid the foundation for subsequent traditions, or foundation for non-positivism, and then say symbolic interactionism, phenomenology, ethnomethodology, hermeneutics, and other things. Okay, so that's how. Now, when you define what are the key features, now I'll just talk one sentence each of these key features. If you see, focus on subjective meanings attached to the action, the internal meanings, emotions, and all those things is what considered here. Then recognition of the role of human agency in shaping social realities. I hope all these things are known to you. See, guys, again, attend this session only if you have completed this topic and consider it as a revision session. Consider it as a test series, and then you are here to just listen to the answer which you have already written. Okay. Again, emphasis on understanding the motivations, beliefs, and values guiding the human action. So as a sociologist, what you need to do, interpretive understanding of social action and arrive at the explanation of cause and effect. Find the meanings attached by the actor to the action. Then you can establish the effect. Right? So that's how. If you look at Weber's contribution, you can say he emphasized that social scientists, in fact, must interpret the subjective meanings behind the action. So meanings attached by the actor to the action need to be understood to establish the cause and effect relation. And he proposed the method of Verstehen. We studied that in detail in the Thinkers chapter. So that, in fact, enabled the sociologist to grasp the actor's perspective. And he also suggested that the social phenomena differ from natural phenomena due to their intrinsic connection to the human consciousness. And he made it very clear that natural science study matter which do not have consciousness, whereas social science or sociology study human being who's having consciousness. So the behavior cannot be predicted exactly, right? So absolute objectivity is neither possible nor desirable, and all those things we discussed. So if you see, there is obvious difference between social phenomena and natural phenomena, right? So natural science, if you see, study matter which do not have consciousness. You can predict the behavior. You boil water at 100 degrees Celsius or you freeze the water at 0 degrees Celsius, you know what is going to happen. Outcome is predictable. But when it comes to human beings, everything is decided by the internal aspects, the meanings, motives, emotions. So you need to study that, establish the connection to the human consciousness. Now, if you can also talk about Alfred Schutz, that we will discuss when we talk about the other non-positivism, Alfred Schutz, Peter Berger, Thomas Luckmann, right? All these thinkers we need to bring in. Alfred Schutz highlighted the importance of typified stocks of knowledge that, in fact, individuals use to navigate their social worlds. We discussed this in detail. If you see Mead, George Herbert Mead, in fact, proposed that social reality is constructed through interactions which are mediated by symbols. And that's the symbolic interactionist perspective. We discussed this in Thinkers chapter in detail. Now, coming to the important tenets of this perspective. So first, social construction of reality. So you can take it down, at least the important points, you take it down and add that. So when you talk about this, reality is not static nor fixed. It is continuously shaped by the human interactions. And talk about Peter Berger and Thomas Luckmann. So they propose that reality is socially constructed through habitualization and institutionalization. So that's about social construction of reality. Must have to mention this. For example, the meanings attached to symbols like flag or handshakes are socially constructed and it is context dependent, right? So again, subjectivity in understanding social action. See, actions must be analyzed in the context of actors' intentions and interpretation. That's why Weber talk about, emphasizing the need to understand the meanings and motives behind the action. So if you need to establish the cause and effect, what you need to do is you simply try to understand the meanings attached by the actor when he performing that action. When I'm teaching you what the meaning attached by me when I'm performing this action, this is social action. So you can establish the effect of this action. For example, again, if you take religious rituals, it may seem irrational to an outsider, but it holds profound significance and importance for the practitioners, because they have some meanings attached when they do certain practices and the rituals. So it may be not important for the outsiders who's watching this, right? So guys, these are examples you can write. These are very good examples taken from important sources. Again, symbolic interactionism you can mention. So they focus on role of symbols in social interaction. Herbert Blumer you discuss here, or George Herbert Mead you can discuss here. In fact, Herbert Blumer developed Mead's ideas. and emphasized how people act based on the meanings which arise from social interactions. For example, the meaning of marriage that differs across cultures and is in fact shaped by ongoing social interactions. Okay, we discussed this in detail in the chapter of Mead. So I hope you have completed these areas. Again, phenomenology. You can discuss about Alfred Schutz. So explores how individual experience and interpret the world around them. Right. In fact, Alfred Schutz highlighted the importance of shared typifications in everyday life. For example, a traffic light, the meaning, right? Red for stop, green for go, as a shared typification, which is learned through socialization. Okay, hermeneutics you can mention. So that's again study of interpretation, guys. This was asked. Normally, what we study is we study positivism and the positivist, and then non-positivism, in which we talk about interactionism, we talk about interpretivism, we talk about phenomenology, we talk about ethnomethodology. Hermeneutics normally we miss, and this was asked as a 10 marker before. Don't know exactly the year. So Hans Georg Gardner, he emphasized that historical context of understanding and the fusion of horizons between the interpreter and the subject. So it's about study of interpretation, especially of text and symbols, hermeneutics, study of interpretation of text and symbols. Okay, so talk about George Gardner. For example, the interpretation of religious text again varies across time and the cultural settings also. Correct? Then talk about ethnomethodology, phenomenology we already discussed. So here, Harold Garfinkel. So what is ethnomethodology? That examines how individuals make sense of their social world through everyday interactions. The method of accounts is used. Propose that people use accounts to explain and maintain social order. Method of accounts, we discussed this in detail. So indexicality and other things we discussed. So if I need to give an example, people follow unspoken rules like queuing, and then which they interpret as necessary for maintaining that order, right? That queue that you maintain. These are unspoken rules actually. Again, importance of context. So when we talk about the tenets, all these you can mention, so that add value to your answer. So, and that will be content rich, right? So interpretive sociology, in fact, underscore the importance of situating actions within their broader social, cultural, and historical context. So the context is important. Talk about that. And here you can mention Anthony Giddens, stress the interplay between agency and structure in shaping the individual actions. So what are the criticisms? See, when we talk about criticisms, generally non-positivist criticism, you can write here. You can say overemphasis on subjectivity, right? Or ignorance of objectivity. So mainly critics argue that the approach neglect the structural and material dimension of society. Talk about Louis Althusser here. Highlighted the role of ideological state apparatus. We discussed this in many cases. In ideological state apparatus in shaping the individual consciousness that challenging purely subjective interpretations. Then lack of generalizability. So here means no theories. They are not concerned about theories. So it's just for the sake of criticizing. So the focus on specific context and individual experiences can limit the ability to derive universal theories. Of course, they are not concerned also. So the interpretive findings from one culture may not apply to others. But remember, Weber have made the theories also. But we are discussing in general here. Again, neglect the power of dynamics. So the approach often overlooks how power and inequality shape meaning, making processes. Pierre Bourdieu you can discuss. So he argued that symbolic power operates through the imposition of meanings. In fact, most often serving the dominant groups. Right? So Louis Althusser, Pierre Bourdieu, and all those we discussed in many cases, especially when we discuss in the context of Marx also. Again, methodological limitation here. See, again, dependence on qualitative methods that can lead to observer bias, subjectivity, the same points. So mainly the positivist criticize this, interpretive sociology lacks objectivity and all those things, reliability, validity, those general criticisms you can mention. So once you're done with that, now you need to conclude. What you will say, you can say the interpretive perspective has profoundly enriched sociology by emphasizing the subjective dimensions of social life. So it highlighted that subjective aspect. It, in fact, gave another dimension to the subject. It laid the foundation for non-positivism. So it has provided tools to understand human actions, interactions, and the meanings people attach to their experiences. It faces criticism for its focus on subjectivity and limited generalization and other aspects, but It complement, in fact, the positivist approach by offering, better insights into the complexities of human behavior. Positivism also have limitations, right? It is focusing on external aspect only. So this, in fact, complements. So both are required. You can say later sociologists, in fact, went for an integrated approach of micro, macro, right? Inductivism, deductivism, quantitative, qualitative, and other things. So it is complementing positivism by also incorporating the internal aspect and thereby having a complete understanding of reality. We can also quote Weber, say that sociology must strive to understand social action by interpreting the meanings individual ascribe to their action. What is sociology? Sociology is a science which aims at interpretive understanding of social action in order thereby to arrive at an explanation of cause and effect. So by doing so, what interpretive sociology is doing bridges the gap between objective observation and subjective experience. Or in other way, I can say positivism and non-positivism. And that's making it indispensable for a holistic understanding of society. So that's how you'll be concluding your answer. So that's about this session, guys. I hope you got some value. That's something which you are missing from your notes. You can add that and you can update that. In case if you're looking for any test series or mentorship program on sociology or the course, check out the details in the description. And if you are looking for the PDF of this, you can download it for free of cost. If you like the video, share it with your friends also. So see you guys in the next session. Thank you so much.